Good morning. It's Tuesday, October 7th, a rough one. Can't be up till 11 p.m. on a Monday night watching the Cubs lose or the Brewers win, depending on how you look at it. So it's a rough morning here, and I'm Phil Streible, Chief Market Strategist at Blue Line Futures. So looking at some of your top headlines here, you got the government shutdown going on day 7. You got gold hitting $4,000. The dollar continues to climb, and analysts are upgrading both gold and silver in their outlook. Goldman Sachs put out a precious metals comment here indicating that their 2026 December year-end forecast is going to be right around 4,900. They also put out an update on the copper market, which you can see copper futures. They've been up about 4 out of the last 5 trading sessions, bouncing off that $5 support here yesterday and indicating some higher lows on the charts here, kind of recoupling back through that big sell-off that we saw when those tariffs were canceled on the refined copper. Now you look at our investors. One of the questions is, are investors starting to begin to give up on the silver market, and are they looking to just rotate into other different commodities? And the reason why I bring this point up here is because one of the things that I watch here are the flows, and the flows are in the ETFs here, where they cut about 7.58 million ounces of silver here in the previous trading session here. It was the biggest one-day decrease from February 6th, the third straight day of decline. So I can't retire my Make Silver Great Again hat until we breach that $50 mark on a closing basis on the futures. And at the same time, unless those futures on the soybean market drop below $10 on a closing basis, I can't shift to or pivot or rotate into the Make Soybeans Great Again hat. So we'll have to watch those markets as well. Agricultural markets have been in focus here as you've got some negotiations going on with China here, but harvest pressure continues to put that lid here on some of the agricultural markets. Now getting back to the metals, getting back to the equities, what we focus on here on the channel. If you like agricultural content too, my partner Oliver Slope, he does a lot of content on RFD. He also puts out daily videos as well, and he puts out a great Grain Express and livestock roundup. So after hitting another record high on the S&P 500, it is edging a bit lower here, but recoupling here back on up to unchanged here on the overnight session, sitting at 67.89. You also have the NASDAQ up 9. The Dow's up 43 and the Russell's up 2 points here. The FANGs are just slightly lower here. So we did see that record high on Monday. It was fueled by tech stocks, kind of riding that artificial intelligence spending boom. You're seeing a lot of M&A activity. You're seeing a lot of investments going into other companies, and we're seeing this big floor being raised here as far as artificial intelligence is concerned. You do have 10-year treasury yields. They are pushing a bit higher here, sitting at 4.17%, putting some weight here on the 30-year, on the 10-year. We're also seeing 2-year treasury yields continue to edge lower here. So it's factoring in those interest rate cuts. And what we're seeing is a steepening here of the yield curve. Again, you do have gold futures pulling back from that record high. And you look at the record high here, just breaching over that $4,000 mark. Kind of in a strange hour in the trading session when it did that. It was in the after hours here, but it was much later. Not a lot of volume on the chart, so I didn't see a lot of profit-taking stops getting hit, things like that. It was more focused on the selling pressure here, getting up to that round number, because it wasn't buy stops being triggered because of the fact I think we would have saw some more upside momentum. But with futures pulling back here in the overnight session, I wouldn't be surprised to see another retest of the $4,000 mark during the trading session here. So one thing I'll be watching is the dollar index, of course. Higher lows on the chart starting to form here. Same thing with those treasury yields, and I outlined that in the chart pack as well. You got the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ, again, just slightly higher in that pre-market session. Looking at some of the data coming out here today, you're going to have trade balance data for August due out at 7:30 a.m. Eastern, but could be impacted by the shutdown. Now, what they're doing with this shutdown with the data is they're kind of just rolling it forward, where if the government does reopen, I am seeing some like tentative schedules as far as when some of this data comes out, but it's very challenging here. This is where you really go to technical based here, and also some of the flows here in market momentum when you're trading, rather than looking at some of this data coming out. Although the private estimates here have been fantastic as far as keeping up to speed here with what analysts expect the data to come out at. And that's where I believe that a lot of these market movements are starting to pivot and hinge upon. Now, the dollar index up 29 here at 98.07. Again, 10-year treasury yields up 1 basis point. And the volatility index just slightly muted to edging just a bit higher here at 1760. So you take a look at the global markets. You do have European stocks. They were really muted on Tuesday here. Growing political concerns over in France. If you think what we got going on in the U.S., a bit of a cluster. You look over at France, I mean, they're just completely falling apart. And then you get the flip side on Asia, where you get those shares here slipping after 6 straight days of gains. The MSCI Asian Pacific Index, it fell as much as 0.3%, erasing that earlier gain of 0.4%. You got Japanese shares continuing to climb here in a second straight day here with expectations of stimulus under that new premier here leadership that you got going on over there. You get China, Hong Kong, and South Korea all closed. So you look at the poly markets, and the poly markets look at when that government shutdown is going to end. The betting markets are really thinking between October 15th and later is where you got about 68% chance. You go to the CME's Fed Watch tool, you got a 92.5% chance of a 25 basis point interest rate cut. The amount that's going into the no change is continuing to build more momentum here. Will an ending of the government shutdown and perhaps some improved labor data bring back in the no interest rate cuts into the equation? It's just something we got to monitor, and also monitor the dollar index. Remember, I flagged several things on the gold market for risk management purposes because of the fact that gold is continuing to signal all-time highs here, but you want to watch the, again, higher lows in a dollar, rising treasury yields. And then you'll look at the gold market and you'll say, hey, it peaked at 4,000. Is it going to sell off, make a higher low, maybe goes up to 980 or 39.85, and then it breaks below 39.50. So you watch kind of how the chart sets up, and once you start getting those higher lows, lower lows on the charts, and then you break critical levels of support that were old resistance, new support, we break down there, that's when you pivot. You start to look at working your way, bringing yourself back down to your minimum position in the gold market, and then you focus on other things that are out there. Remember, these are just tickers. They're not relationships. You're not married to the gold market here. You're married to your wife or significant other. So you want to just look at these things as tools in your toolbox. You're more married to that physical that you'll never end up probably selling. Once gold goes to 5,000, 10,000, you probably never sell your physical gold. The same thing with the silver market. It's 50, 60, 70. You'll probably continue to hold that forever as well. So utilize the futures markets, utilize the ETF markets and things like that as a structural investment to try and capitalize on some gains here, and then reallocate those gains to try and compound your wealth into other markets as well. So getting slightly off topic. Again, poly market here, 90% chance of a 25 basis point interest rate cut. And then again, I've been watching closely those ETF flows. So they're increasing gold holdings for the 8th straight day. And what I believe is happening is you have silver kind of running up here, losing a bit of momentum. And then what people are doing is, remember, a lot of these traders, they just trade the momentum trade. So they'll swap out of some silver and go into things like Bitcoin, which charged higher. They'll go into other cryptos like Ethereum, which was starting to light up here. They'll go into the gold market because of the fact that there's, you know, a parallel shift between gold and silver. They also look at copper starting to move their way up, and traders just really want to be, imagine it as a horse race that's continuously going. They just want to bet on those top 3 horses here, and they always want to chase those 1 and number 2 here horses. So I believe that that's why we're seeing a bit of rotation happen. That's all in the silver market. But as long as silver, you get the tactical ranges that I put out here, you look at the charts here and you continue to see the higher highs, the higher levels of volatility here, it pushing and achieving new highs. You want to continue to focus on riding some of those winners here and not avoiding trimming a little bit too early on those markets. So we'll see if the dollar, we'll see if the yields, if they play any kind of role. We'll see if we have a turnaround Tuesday here with Bitcoin taking a little bit of a breather here, silver taking a bit of a breather, gold again recapturing that positive momentum, and the same thing with the equity market. So you guys got any questions, reach out. You'll love to open up a trading account with us here. It's pretty simple. It takes about 5-10 minutes to open up. Get you an account number here. We get that account funded, set you up on a platform here. You can work with anyone on our team. You work with myself here directly here, or you can trade on your own here as well. A lot of people just rely on us for the research, or they'll expand out into the wealth management. They'll expand out on working with our CTA here. We've got a metals program. We've also got a mining alpha program here on the wealth management side. side. So you guys want to learn more about that, send an email to info@bluelionfutures.com. And remember, futures and options does involve risk of loss, may not be suitable to all investors. And we got hockey opening up tonight. And guess who opens that up? The Blackhawks are opening up. So I got to sign team stick here from when they won the World Cup here, and that was back in 2015. So it was a really good setup here for as far as signatures across that particular stick here, and one of the things that I love to watch. So guys, again, have good luck, good trading, have a great trading day.